Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Flight Lieutenant Robert Neuenhoven. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand for the National Anthem. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Reginald Reseigh Gluyas. Reginald Gluyas was born on the 24th of October 1898 in Edithburgh, a small town on the southeast corner of York Peninsula in South Australia. The son of shopkeepers Frank and Louisa Gluyas, he and his two younger sisters grew up in Edithburgh. He attended the local Edithburgh Public School and later took up studies at Stott and Hawes Business College in Adelaide. On completion of his studies, Gluyas was employed at the South Australian Farmers Union and was working as a clerk in his father's shop when war broke out in 1914. Reginald Gluyas enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 23rd of July 1917 at the age of 18. Assigned to the 32nd Battalion, he embarked from Melbourne aboard the troopship Ulysses in December. Gluyas reached Egypt in January 1918 and spent time in training camps before joining his unit in France in April. The following month, Gluyas was transferred to the 50th Battalion and was sent to the front lines around the River Onca in France. On the 5th of April, Gluyas' battalion was part of the defence at Dernancourt, the largest German attack mounted against Australian troops during the war. Days later, on the 25th of April 1918, Gluyas and his comrades took part in the legendary battle at Villers-Bretonneux, forcing the German army back to their lines and recapturing the town. As the end of the war drew closer, Gluyas and the 50th Battalion took part in the decisive Battle of Amiens on the 8th of August. The Allied offensive aimed to push through German lines in a multifaceted attack using artillery, infantry, aeroplanes and tanks. The attack commenced in the early hours of the morning, allowing troops to reach the enemy's front lines under artillery cover. The combination of man and machine power was so effective that in just 3 hours, the enemy's front line had been overrun. By the end of the day, Allied forces had liberated 116 towns and captured more than 29,000 prisoners. The offensive at Amiens was so successful that it was later labelled as the Black Day of the German Army. Efforts to consolidate Allied successes around Amiens continued throughout August as troops attempted to gain more ground. On the 17th of August, Gluyas' battalion was serving in the lines near the French village of Chipolly. Gluyas was resting in a dugout when he was hit by an enemy shell. His comrades carried him to an ambulance which took him to a casualty clearing station at Dowers. With severe shrapnel wounds to his abdomen, there was little that medical staff could do for him, and he died of his wounds later that day, aged 19. In Australia, the Daily Herald wrote of Gluyas' passing, noting, "He had many friends to whom he had endeared himself by his bright and cheerful disposition and many good qualities." Reginald Gluyas was buried at the Dowers communal cemetery in France beneath the words of his grieving parents. "Greater love hath no man than this, his duty nobly done." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Reginald Reseigh Gluyas, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning,
We will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.